It's Thursday, the 23rd of January, 2025. Welcome to the Fast 5 Business News by Fear and Greed, where we give you the top 5 business stories you need to know in just 5 minutes. I'm Michael Thompson, and good morning, Sean Aylmer.
Good morning, Michael.
Sean, 5 stories in 5 minutes. Let's go with story number 1. President Donald Trump has suggested he could impose tariffs on China next week and double tax rates for foreign individuals and companies working in the US.
He said tariffs for China were still on the table. He was talking about 10%, probably on 1 February. His reason is that he claims that China sells fentanyl to Mexico and Canada. Previously, he'd threatened 60% tariffs, so maybe 10% tariffs ain't too bad. He's already said 25% tariffs would be applied to Mexico and Canada from February 1. He wouldn't rule out further sanctions on Russia. He said European countries need to provide more money for the NATO alliance. He also talked about 1.5 million Ukrainians and Russians being killed in that war. Now, the number is probably closer to 250,000 people. He directed all federal diversity, equity and inclusion staff to be put on paid leave. Agencies need to develop plans to lay them off. He said he's open to Elon Musk buying TikTok. He already controls 600 million monthly users on X, another 120 million US TikTok users. Very powerful man that would make him. He announced investments worth up to $500 billion in AI. He also started yesterday with the National Prayer Service. The Reverend Marianne Buddy lectured him on LGBTQ and immigrant rights and begged him to have mercy on scared families. Afterwards, Trump described the service as not too exciting.
Sean, anything yet that's likely to directly hit Australia and I suppose Australian companies as well?
The big one is that Donald Trump's threatened to double tax rates for foreign nationals and companies in the US to hit back at discriminatory levies on American multinationals. In his America First trade policy, the US president referred to an obscure 90-year-old provision in the US tax code. It allows him to retaliate against foreign countries by imposing punitive tax on their citizens and businesses. If that happened, Australia would be hit.
Okay, moving on to story number 2 now, Sean. Qantas has overhauled its frequent flyer program, meaning that you will need more points to travel on some international routes.
The number of points required to book classic rewards fares will rise by between 5 and 20% on certain Qantas routes. Number of points for classic upgrades and bookings on partner airlines will also rise. The flip side, or the trade-off, is that it will be easier to use frequent flyers on partner airlines like Air France, KLM and Finnair. This was all going on as the share price of Qantas hit a new record yesterday, $9.44. Pretty phenomenal. It's quadrupled since its COVID low of March 2020. Yesterday's spike was more about the fact that oil prices have fallen on the back of Donald Trump wanting to drill for more oil. That is good for fuel prices for Qantas. In any case, its share price record high.
Story number 3, Commonwealth Bank is the country's most valuable brand, and the big supermarkets, Woolies and Coles, have rebounded from a somewhat uncomfortable 2024 to be back in the top 5.
It's Commonwealth Bank, then Woolies, then Telstra, then ANZ, and then Coles. Brand Finance Australia's annual survey looks at how much of the company's profits are attributable to its brand. So it's a little bit different to reputation. Other companies to show improvement in brand value include Qantas after a horror 2023, Jetstar, ditto, and Kmart on the back of its Anko brand, which seems to be doing great things. There were notable declines. Fortescue Metals Group, Harvey Norman, BHP, and Optus slid further.
Story number 4, Netflix added a record 19 million subscribers in the December quarter as viewers flocked to stream the new installment of Squid Game and live sporting events, including a much-hyped boxing match between Mike Tyson and Jake Paul.
At the end of last year, Netflix had 301 million subscribers, 15% higher than a year earlier. Its share price jumped on the news. It's up 80% over the last year. Netflix, as a result, will raise prices. Fortunately, not in Australia at this point, just in US, Canada, Portugal and Argentina. The streaming group made a big push into live sporting events in the fourth quarter. Obviously, the Tyson v. Paul boxing match was a big one, 65 million streams. On Christmas Day, it streamed a pair of National Football League games, one which featured Beyonce, about 24 million viewers streaming that day. The other big one, Squid Game. It debuted season 2, 68 million views in the first week.
Finally, Sean, story number 5, a 1969 Porsche, which was used in the Steve McQueen film Le Mans in 1971, currently owned by Jerry Seinfeld. So there's a lot of history behind this particular car. Failed to sell at auction over the weekend, being taken off the market perhaps a little unusually, when bidding got to $40 million US.
So it'd have to be the most recognisable Porsche in history. It would have been the most expensive if it was sold. It was part of a massive auction in Florida, 4,500 vintage cars or cars being sold. Bidding began for this Porsche at $21 million. Apparently, Jerry Seinfeld bought it for $6 million in 2002. Now, the auctioneer took it off the market at $40 million. Not quite sure why. The highest sale on the day, a 1966 Ford GT40, $11 million. My favourite sale, the 1967 Jaguar ED Type Roadster, used in the Austin Powers movies. It's called, remember in the movies, they call it the Shaguar? It went for $1.4 million.
That's a great story. All right, there we go. The top 5 business stories in 5 minutes. Thank you, Sean.
Thank you, Michael.
It is Thursday, the 23rd of January, 2025. Remember to hit follow on the podcast, and if 5 minutes isn't enough, you can find our longer daily show called Fear and Greed wherever you listen to podcasts. I'm Michael Thompson, and that was the Fast 5 Business News by Fear and Greed. Have a great day.